Hello and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Just Speak. I am your host, Claire B. And yes, you've guessed it, we have another amazing, authentic, creative person with us today. Super inspiring. It's somebody that we work in partnership with and have a great relationship with. And so today I'd like to introduce Kirsty to our podcast. Let's just get straight in. So Kirsty and I, we do sort of cross paths quite regular. So Kirsty, you want to just tell us a little bit about you, your role, and
yeah, I feel like people are going to be like, "Oh, that sounds amazing," and then I'll tell you, and you'll go, "Is that it?" So I work as a nurse, but within third sector. Yeah. So I previously was in the NHS, and a few years ago I decided that there was an opportunity to come full-time and work really specifically within people who were trying to get into recovery from addiction, so gambling, alcohol, drugs, but also people who were really isolated, lonely, struggling with poverty and just sort of the difficulties of life as well. So I do a real mixture of things. So we facilitate the Dundee Recovery Roadmap. It's probably one of the biggest parts of what we do, which is basically pulling together all of the third sector, statutory services, mental health, addiction focused, rehab information, peer support groups, carers, health and wellbeing, all of these things. And we have it in a leaflet, a poster, a mobile phone app and a web app. So we try and keep it up to date, keep it relevant, kind of print new copies and get it out to as many services as possible. The other thing we do are we do 2 drop-ins a week. Yeah. So a Monday and a Thursday, we open our doors for lunch, essentially, but also a safe space. People can come in, have a chat. We will quite often have people coming in under the influence. Yeah. So it's a place where we can monitor them, we can keep an eye on them, administer naloxone. There's always at least 2 or 3 nurses around, plus, harm reduction team. We have housing services coming in. Oh, I can't even think who else we've got coming in. We've got so many amazing services.
And connected to the Women's Hub as well.
So we've got Positive Steps. So really just trying to link people into as many different services as possible. Yep. And we can have, in 2 hours, we can have up to 70 people through the door. So so it's, I like to call it organised chaos, but it's more chaotic than organised. But people get fed and everybody is spoken to. So that's our main thing, is that we don't want people to sort of come in and leave without having had an interaction with someone. So we've kind of very specifically set up a format so that people will be met at the door, they'll be shown to a seat, it's table service, so that we know that somebody has interacted with them and can hopefully pick up on sort of any issues or distress or anything like that. And then myself and we've got a peer recovery worker, Stevie. We run groups through the week, so I'll do a women's group on a Monday morning, and Stevie works with mostly guys, and he's got a group for men on a Thursday morning, and that's really looking at the intensive recovery support, so setting up a weekly plan, linking in with other services, making sure that they've got appointments in, and that they're prepared to get to them, or we just set a plan to kind of stop that cycle of boredom and using and relapsing, and just to give people options and show them that there is choice there for them. And Dundee always gets such a bad reputation, but actually there's loads of things for people, so we just kind of try and direct folk and then walk with them. So it's not about doing it for them, it's just walking with them, kind of being there as they go into different groups, a wee bit of support, but mostly friendship, I would say, is probably the biggest thing that we do. So that's kind of roughly my day-to-day stuff.
No, and it's a lot, isn't it? And you've just put that so nicely and so well. It's great. You've rehearsed that.
I really don't.
No, it's great. I love it.
To be fair, there's probably so much more. I mean, we, like yourself, what we want to do is make sure that we can be like a wee sort of beacon of hope somewhere. Like, Dundee, anytime you read about it in the press, it's always really negative. You know, high drug deaths, high rates of suicide, high rates of teen pregnancy, high rates of alcohol deaths. And, it's just like all of these really, what could go wrong in a city, Dundee will tick all of it. But actually, there's really amazing work going on out there. And I think we're really fortunate that our two services are like right across the road, and we offer very different things while kind of the same at the same time, so it's really nice
compliments.
And being able to like link in with each other, and we're both really good at what we do. Like both services work really well, and they do complement each other nicely. So,
and I guess for us personally, we don't get as much time as we would like to sort of chat, catch up, but when we do, it's really good peer support, and just knowing it's there, and sometimes somebody external but on the same page.
Yes,
it's really
absolutely
useful, isn't it? And nice to know.
And I think as well, probably a lot of the issues that we see are so unique to our work that to kind of go and like speak to your friends or even and like partners or whatever or family, it's really difficult to actually sometimes explain why you care so much about it. So to have, other organisations that you can go to and be like, I just kind of need a bit of a vent. Like, I just need to kind of moan about how rubbish this week has been and how hard it's been and frustrating, because it's probably the most frustrating job I've ever done, because you can see people's potential.
Yes.
But they don't see it in themselves, and, you're trying to work out a way of how can we actually nurture these people and actually build their confidence when they are at absolute rock bottom. So to be able to go, Claire's doing a musical, like let's get involved with that, come on, and encourage folk to go and try something different, or to do the yoga, or there's a cinema group and you can get your dinner, and these sort of things. And then you could say, well, why don't you give Kirsty a phone and she'll meet you for a coffee through the week if you're struggling. You'll know yourself, most folk, payday is a massive trigger. So I end up doing like all my one-to-ones on paydays, just so that people feel like they're a wee bit accountable to somebody. So no,
that's really good. That's really good. And I think it's good for people as well to see us working together, how we do. And as you've mentioned, like the other agencies and that you work with across, and so do we. And then that's really been a huge key, hasn't it, over the last few years. And then I know people always spoke about that, but never really happened so much. But the pandemic really brought that up, didn't it? And really made us like connect in that. And that's just such a positive, because people can get so much from everybody. And you don't want people to think that, oh, I'm going to offend you because I've been, it's just really not. I think one of our biggest frustrations is, and we do work with men and women, but we do get quite frustrated with a lot of women that we work with, that we feel that they're so close. So close. And then round and round we go, and it's really hard, isn't it?
It's breaking the cycle. And I think when you're on the outside looking in to kind of someone else's life, it's really easy to kind of pinpoint areas that you think, well, actually, that's a massive issue, that needs to be worked on. That's a massive issue, that needs to be worked on. But for the person who's caught in it at that time, they might actually only see, I've not got any electric, or, I've only got a £5 and I don't get paid for 2 weeks and I'm going to run out of food. And yes, these are big issues, but I suppose for us, we're kind of trying to look at the whole picture. So we always say within parish nursing, it's always about holistic care. But it's the whole person, the inside out, top to toe, every aspect of their life, social, housing, family, everything. I can't do that all myself, or my team can't do that all just with us. You need all these other groups and organisations and professionals to come in and say, well, I can help with this bit, and I can do the social part, and we can help with the food, and that's holistic care, that's wraparound care, that's fully supporting somebody with all aspects of their life. Because I think it's kind of a trap I think a lot of addiction services can easily fall into, is kind of thinking, oh, we're the people that can solve this, or, you know, we're the only ones that you should be coming to for help, when actually I always think that's so dangerous, that we need to be pulling on the life experience and the, you know, support from other places, and, you know, their I can't even think what the word is, but, you know, their the things that they're best at, you know, that I couldn't do half of what you do. I think I could do 3/4 of what you do within your service here. But that's not my forte. Whereas, you know, there's other things that I can do. And I know that, you know, like your statutory services can't meet with someone 5 days a week, but I could. I can meet with folk in the evening. I could see them at a weekend, because we can be flexible. So it takes all of us. It takes everybody, really.
Yeah, no, definitely does. We spoke with a few people on this podcast, and some people aren't aware of your service either. And it's I find it fascinating, you know, really. And some you'll be having new people through the door that lived in Dundee all their life and never knew what was going on. And I still find that incredible. And I still find it incredible that we're getting new and different people through the door, right? It's because you're thinking, when does it end? Where do we stop? And, I'm not really sure what my point was there, but
I think though, for us and sort of us as in a sector, you know, like especially third sector, like working within charities and things is, you know, people kind of think you can do everything. They're a charity, they're there to help. And I think that's why we do see more and more people coming through, and especially like for us being based in a church, everyone's like, oh, you go to the church because they'll help you, and half the time we're like, oh, help you, I need help myself half the time. But you know, it's trying to then go, well, you know, if I'm not the right person, because we're often not, and that's something that I've had to like work really hard at, is actually going, I'm probably not the right person to work with you, and knowing when to take a step back and not hand them over to someone else, but to bring another service in and go, okay, well, let's try this service, and let's, you know, bring, because
you're right, it is difficult. It was tricky, because you do feel, that they've come to you, and you do feel like, you want to help.
A bit responsible. So since I started full-time with parish nursing, I've like made it a bit of a mission to work really hard on my boundaries. So my husband and I work in very similar sectors, and so for us it would just be our whole life would be caught up with work, you know, doing this work and trying to help people and having folk contact us. And so like I have kind of made it my thing of, well, no, I can't help you with that. And like even today in the town, it sounds awful, but I'll just out myself anyway. So like I bumped into someone in the town who comes into our service quite a lot, and you know, she was kind of asking all these different questions. Can you help me with this, that, and the other? And I had to say, well, I'm actually on holiday. You know, so why don't you go to Pointed Around to here, or, you know, Eagle's Wings, another organisation in the city. You know, these people you can help. Oh, well, can I just use your phone? You know, and just to make a phone call, and you feel awful. But, you know, I was like, well, not today, because I'm on, you know, I'm on holiday today. I'm away to meet somebody. But if you go round, and it's that thing of going, I don't actually have to justify it, you know, to say, like, I'm not working today, you know, normally, you know, I would do whatever I can to help you, but actually I can't today. So that is a massive part of like self-care that I've kind of been trying to bring into my practice, and work really hard on, to go, that's not selfish, that's just kind of looking after myself, and setting a firm boundary that I can't be everything to everyone at all times. That we do have to have limitations, and I think sort of recognising that you need to be working in partnership with other people to kind of say, well, we can't do it, but let's find you who can. And it's why it does, you know, having you guys across the road is just fab, because normally we're like, well, go to Claire. Go and see Claire.
And she's busy working on her boundaries.
It's really hard though, because I think if you're a naturally very compassionate person, you know, and it does come really unnaturally to kind of say, well, actually, no, I can't do that. But all you end up doing is giving and giving and giving and giving, and then you have nothing left. And you've nothing left for yourself, for your family, for, you know, your free time. You end up going, oh, I'll just nip and do that. Or I'll just do such and such. And it's a one-off, but those one-offs happen every week, every month, every... So yeah, it's not easy, and it does take a lot of work. But a lot of the girls that I work with, they always kind of think it's this big running joke that on my gravestone it'll say, Kirsty Nelson, she loves a boundary. Because it's the one thing that I'm always kind of going on about. Actually, we need to have boundaries in our life to live really healthy lives. Because if we do try and give and give and give, especially if you are in recovery, you get to a point where most people go, I'm doing really well, so I'm going to help everyone else. And I want to give back. Common, and, you know, and then they just give so much that actually there's nothing left for themselves. And you think, right, wait a minute, you know, back to basics. You know, you can't go and, you know, pull people out of crack houses or, you know, go around and I'll sit with them and, you know, I'll be fine not to use when you're still really vulnerable and really early in recovery. And so, boundaries is like there's like a wee meme, I don't know if you've seen it, it's Charlotte's laughing, SpongeBob SquarePants, just going, boundaries. And I like to think that just wee rainbow of boundaries comes over my head. You can just
randomly send me that any time, you know, just
I'm going
now and
tonight,
again.
I'll just be like your boundary subconscious, just being like, hey Claire, have you taken a holiday yet?
I know, it's classic. You know, when I first asked you to do this podcast, and I did say to you at the time, because you mentioned your husband there. Now, your husband's very confident, isn't he? Yeah, he can come across really well. Yeah. And I thought, I'm going to ask Kirsty to come along to this podcast, but I think she'll say, no, but Mark will. Yeah. But you were like, no, I'll do it.
Quite happy.
You're a brilliant speaker. Yeah. You're a really good, like, I really enjoy that patronisingly, because I'm really sitting here like admiring the way you can deliver things, and you're a really good speaker.
Thank you. My mum will not be surprised by that at all. When I was in third year, my geography teacher told her that I would have a career in telly one day, so... Wow. I didn't. I did go into nursing.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet. What are you talking about? It could still happen.
Oh, jeez, I don't think the world is ready for that.
This podcast is the launch.
That's it.
Remember
That's it. Yep, I will.
So, there we go. We've segued nicely to Mark now. Your lovely husband.
He will be delighted.
He will be. He'll be like, good, it's about me.
Yes.
So, I'm not... Can you just share a little bit, or whatever you're comfortable with, about, you know, your Mark? And because I think I'm just fascinated by your story as well.
I can't believe you didn't know, actually. So Claire and I went for a coffee the other month, and we were just, I can't even remember what we were talking about, and I'd mentioned about like how well Mark had done in recovery, and then kind of mentioned a bit about our story, which I didn't realise you had no idea about. So I met Mark when I was volunteering at a soup kitchen, and Mark was sort of coming out the other end of a 20-year heroin addiction. Wow. So he wasn't in a good way. He was coming up and he was using the soup kitchen, and was really, really horrible. I know that's such an awful thing to say, but he's actually just really horrible, and he thinks this is hilarious that I say this all the time, but I really try to avoid him because I find him really arrogant. And just so, a lot of the organisations I've been involved in have all been Christian organisations, and like my faith is a big part of my life. Yeah. And Mark used to just come to argue with us, and I was like, you're a horrible person, like leave us alone. And, you know, but actually the more kind of got to know him like over a couple of years, and as he was kind of moving away from like sort of, I suppose you would call it like your hard drugs, your Class A's, and it was more sort of the legal high side of things, and smoking a huge amount of weed and different things. I kind of saw this other side to him of someone who was really, really broken. And anyway, kind of long story short, Mark ended up serving a prison sentence. And kind of prior to that, I'd been helping him with just like a few appointments and stuff. You know, like just try to get stuff organised. He was really, really worried about court and and was quite worried about going to prison, but he was very, very well known within the sort of world that he was living in at that time, as quite a violent person. Nobody kind of crossed him. Like, he was the type of person that if he like offered someone out for a fight, he would hand them a weapon and things like that. So we kind of saw this softer side to him of someone who was really worried and quite anxious about going. And so we kind of supported him through the court process, and he was given a prison sentence. So I wrote to him, and I think that's probably where it all started, really, is when we were writing to each other. You can be really, really candid, and you can probably talk about aspects of your life that you wouldn't actually discuss with anybody face to face. And because you knew that there was going to be quite a long period of time as well, and it was only ever just a friendship, or I actually came to really enjoy his company. As much as I hate to admit it, he's really intelligent, and he had this wealth of knowledge about just really random stuff. He was really well read, he really liked like poetry and stuff like that. And so we were encouraging folk to like send in books and different things and write to him so that he had like purpose. But like I think he came out with more qualifications than I've ever achieved in my life, because that was his rock bottom of, no, I'm never going down this route again, this is it. And he really kind of came off of everything and got himself back on a bit of a sure footing, so that when he came out, the plan was that was it. He would just sort of move ahead and plan his life, and but life happens, and that wasn't the case. And when he came out, he really struggled with the transition. So we kind of tried to support him, but he was in a really, really dark place, and his mental health was really poor as well. And I think it's actually really important to highlight that actually transitioning people from what has been a really firm regime, and really a lot of restrictions. Your whole day is planned out for you. The structure and everything, the routine is what you thrive on. And to all of a sudden be kind of let loose and not have that accountability. He really, really struggled with that. And so he started drinking quite heavily, and it was a bit of a kind of lost all contact. Nobody could get a hold of him and stuff, and I think everybody just kind of thought, oh well, that's it, he's just a way back to his old ways. But he did sort of reappear, and he was, I think he'd only maybe been out about a month, and he was going to be evicted from his flat. So it was this sort of mad rush, and managed to kind of get a flat secured through one of our amazing volunteers who had a property that had just come up for rent. So it all just sort of worked out. I think people would always be like, oh, it's a total coincidence, but I think there was definitely someone looking out for him, because everything just sort of fell in place. Anyway, kind of long story short, he kind of got himself back on his feet, and kind of just moved away, just a sort of very gradual, didn't really want to be associated with that lifestyle, and kind of trying to cut ties was kind of difficult, but he was fairly brutal, and just, kind of got his head down. And after a few months, he started volunteering at the charity that I was then working for. So we decided to
it's amazing,
give it a go.
And now he's also working and helping people. And
so he about 4 years ago, there was a new organisation sort of came up to Dundee and established a service called Navigator, which is part of Medics Against Violence, and they work specifically within accident and emergency, and then supporting people at point of crisis, then into the community, so they follow them up. And so he went and sort of interviewed for them, and has been working with them since 2019, and he just loves it. And I think lived and living experience is often the sort of buzzwords thrown about, but I think Navigator have done it really, really well, and that they normally have a very good sort of mix. But to have somebody sort of come up to someone in hospital at their bedside, maybe when they've just been brought round after an overdose, or through violence which has been brought on through drugs or alcohol, but to have someone who can sit and go, listen mate, I've been there, I was that person, I was you, you know, that's really powerful, I think, for folk to actually go, okay, wait a minute, you know, it's not just someone kind of spouting off textbook stuff or trying to make me feel better, it's someone who really understands.
And he can really connect, can't he? No, that's great.
And he does have the gift of the gab.
He definitely does have the gift of the gab.
But, do you know, I think he really wants to be in a position to offer people the kind of help that he didn't get, maybe at a point that he needed it. You know, nobody should be in addiction for 20 years. You know, that is a failing of services. So I think if you can sort of try and help change that from the inside out. So and I think that's really what he's kind of been doing. So
absolutely brilliant. Love it. Yeah. It's a good job you didn't have your boundaries chat with yourself before.
Oh yeah.
So it's come at the right time, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just blank over that one.
No, it's brilliant.
Just get Charlotte to edit that bit.
Edit that.
No,
out.
do you know what? I always say there was always rumours that Mark and I were together for years before we ever got together.
That's funny, isn't it?
Because it was never on our radar.
No.
It never ever was.
But it must have been seen from other people in terms of
I think so, yeah. But we just enjoyed each other's company.
Yeah.
He'll probably dispute that, but we enjoyed each other's company. My mum and dad once came up on holiday. They lived down in Hamilton, and they came up. I don't even remember where they were, but my mum was like, "I'd love to come and see the soup kitchen and where you were working and stuff." So she came along and she met Mark, and like we were all just chatting, and he was chatting away to my mum and stuff. And I gave her a lift back to wherever they were staying, and she was like, "You need to watch him." And I'm like, "Oh, good one, mum. Very funny, ha ha." And then when I was like, I'd like to introduce Mark, she's like, "I told you so."
That's brilliant.
So, but yeah.
And I've been around you too as well. Like, I think we've been at a couple of social things, but it just anytime I'm around you, I'm just like, oh gosh, they're so in love. Like it's just
Bulk.
love. It is. It can just and see it. So I can understand. Obviously, you weren't in a relationship at that time, but there must have been something around you because I you know, obviously you're married now and you're very much in love, but I do feel that, and you don't always feel that off people.
No, I think when you find your person, you know, don't you? And certainly, I mean, I wouldn't advocate going to soup kitchens to find your partner, but you know, I just think it is always when you least expect it. That was actually in Mark's wedding speech, that the finding love at a soup kitchen. So yeah, it's an ongoing joke.
I love it.
But yeah, do you know, it's just one of these things that, do you know, that never look down on people. Even if you think you're in a better position, you never know how you can be humbled by life. He goes, ta-da! Here you go. But yeah, I think yeah, oh, he's all right.
Bit of Rihanna, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm loving a hopeless place.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
I'm just living my best.
I love it. I love it.
Song life.
Yeah, you are superstar.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like I think there needs to be that sort of reality. That's a really really lovely story. It's really hard because long-term recovery is still hard. And not that, I mean, Mark's recovery is amazing. Mark's recovery is his. Yeah. And I find it really difficult when people are like, "Oh, you've been brilliant," and you know that's amazing, and I'm like, I've done nothing for Mark other than probably nag him, and sometimes giving him a wee sort of shove back. Yeah. But Mark's where he is because of the work that he put in. It's his story. It's not mine. Like our story together is. But Mark's recovery is his, and I think we need to not take that away from people because they work really, really hard.
I think that's such a valid point, and you know, about people's recovery, and it is their journey, and I think that's just a brilliant message to remind everybody about that. And yes, I stand and admire you both, very much so. So you obviously have experience of recovery from other people's journeys, and very much Mark's. What is one thing that people could take away to help them, in your opinion, top tip?
That's a hard one because I think it's so individualised. And recovery, even from any sort of mental health illness or crisis, is so personal. So I would say it depends where you are, but you know yourself best and you know what you need. Don't be afraid to ask other people to help you with that. It's not about other people fixing you, and you will have to put hard work in. But there are so many amazing people out there who would, you know, give you time and give you their energy and give you the help needed to kind of guide you. And I think that to me, that and my experience of, you know, recovery and obviously seeing my husband come through it and a lot of our friends, is that it's a personal journey, and I hate the journey buzzword. But, you know, don't be afraid to put the hard work in, and don't be afraid to ask for help, and remember your boundaries.
Brilliant. No, perfect. Love it. I am so delighted you did this. I am blown away by you, and I really, really enjoyed listening to you, and I love everything you're talking about. Thank you to you and the parish nurses and everything that you guys do. I love it.
Very much.
So thank you very much.
You're buying coffee next time.
True. Thank you very much to the funders for getting us through another podcast episode, and that was a great chat with Kirsty. Loved it. She'll be back. She might bring Mark, but that could be tricky because we won't get a word in edgeways. However, thank you funders. That's the NHS CIF Fund and the SCVO Digital Pioneers Mental Health Fund. We love you.